Hello guys, and welcome back to the Teacher Made channel where everything is made by a teacher. Today we are going to talk about how to do a picture walk with your child or student. A picture walk is a great way to introduce a story or a book to get your child excited about reading. I know you may have heard your child or a student say, well, I can't read. And I tell my students that's not true. If they can read the pictures, they're already doing those skills of what it is called to be a good reader by looking through the story, looking at the pictures to see what the story is about. So I did another activity with this book before. It's called Itchy Itchy Chickenpox. This is one of my favorite books. If you would like to watch another video, I have another video on how I use this book to do a simple reading comprehension activity with Play-Doh. But today I'm going to show you how I do my story picture walk with my students at school, and also how I do my story walks for children that I tutor after school. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is, of course, you're going to show your student the front cover of the story. And then as I'm doing this, you're going to ask your child or student, you're going to ask them, well, what do you think this story is about? You can have them look at the front cover. You can have them look at the back cover. Sometimes there are pictures on the back covers. But on this is just a little level reader book that just tells us what level this book is on. So looking at the front cover, the students can see that this book may be about a dog and a child. So we know that these are two of our main characters in the story, and that is something that I will tell my students, because normally the main characters are on the front cover of the story. So we know that we're going to have a boy and a small dog that's going to be throughout the whole entire story. So let's open up the book. So we're going to open up the book, and I look at every little page. So I ask my students, okay, so what do you see on this page? You see the little boy, he's sitting in the bed with his teddy bear, and then you see his dog off to the left, and he has spots all over his body. And that's when I go in further detail and I ask the students, well, what do you think chickenpox are? And then let them make that connections, whether they had the chickenpox in the past, or I'll show them a video on Brain Pop or YouTube about what chickenpox are. So then on this page, I may pick out, some sight words. So on this page, we have the sight word A that's repeated. And then we just have a picture of our main character, and I'll show them, who's the main character of our story. And that's when they'll say, oh, it's the boy from the front page. So they'll make that connection that this is our main character. And then I'll turn to the next page and I'll ask them, well, what's happening on this page? And a student may say, or a child may say, oh, his mom is on the phone. He's sick because he has a what in his mouth? And then I'll ask them, do they know what this is? And then they'll still see the spots on the boy's face. And then sometimes I'll read the sentence. Like I said, I'll find the sight words. If not, then I'll just ask the student, what do they see on the picture? So you just keep doing this until you get to the very end of the story. Now, sometimes I'll have my students underline the sight words in the story. So when we come back to read it on that page, and when they're reading it with me, they'll know what the word is. So on this page, I'll ask them, well, what happened next? This is also building inferences for the child. So basically, you want to ask the main basic five questions of who, what, and when, and where. And I try to ask who and what on each page, and then I'll alternate between all 5 of them until I get to the end of the story. So on this page, like you can see, there is the sight word on, my, and in between. So like I said, I'll underline the word. And then when we come back to the story, then to the page, then I'll have the student read where, and I'll show you guys. So see how I underline the sight word my? So I have them go in the book, not with a pen, of course, but with a pencil. Then I'll have them go in the story, and then I'll have them underline the sight words on each page. So when we come back to this page after taking the picture walk, then I'll read the words that aren't underlined, so not the sight words. So I'll say on, tummy, between, toes. So that way you'll have the student reading at the same time they're reading the sight words. So also that's building confidence in them, because like I said, they're saying that they cannot read, but I'm like, look, you're already reading because you underline the sight words that you already know, and I'm reading the words that you know that are tricky words that are unfamiliar to you that you cannot read. So you'll just go all the way through the story. And then I'll also ask them emotions and feelings as well. So on this picture, you can see that, oh, how does the little boy feel? He feels sad. Well, how does his dad look? And then you can also talk about, well, does he feel angry? What is he doing on this page? All right. And then you see the dog, and then I'll point to the two main characters of the story again. So like I said, you're going to do this all the way till you get to the end of the story. And there are these sight words that were throughout the story, like my, how we underlined that word earlier, on, and, don't, and under. So like I said, you can just go through the book and have them underline the words that they already know. And then when they finish the picture walk and underline the sight words that they already know, then when we read the story, like I stated earlier, is that they will read the word that they know, and then I'll read the word that's unfamiliar to them, and that is tricky. So that, guys, is how I do my picture walk. Like I said, I start out encouraging them and telling them, oh, you can read because you're looking at the pictures. That is actually a strategy and a skill. So please, please, please don't make your child or a child feel like they cannot read, because the expression that pictures is 1,000 words is very true. When we look at things, we're very visual creatures. That is how some people learn, is one of our Garner's web theory, is through visual. People learn through many different ways. So like I said, this is a simple activity, and then something actually you should be really doing at home with your child every day. Thank you. Don't forget to click the like, share, and subscribe button. Share this video. Share it with anybody that you know who has a child or just want to encourage them and make them do better in school. Thank you.